Welcome back to another episode of Recruiter Fuel. And in this episode, number 10, we're going to shift away from the conversation with other candidates, and we're going to focus more on this relationship and conversation with our hiring managers. Now, this can be a little bit tricky because we all know that there's this rub between hiring leaders and recruiters. And when you survey hiring leaders, you hear things like, my recruiters are very transactional. My recruiters are administrative. They're an expense. They don't bring a lot of value. And when you dig a little bit deeper and you ask why, 6 out of 10 will tell you that at some point in their past, they got burned by a recruiter. Now, it's unfortunate because many recruiters are really, really good. But when you're either walking into a new organization or you have a new hiring leader, you have to start to rebuild this relationship because you're already starting off at a deficit as opposed to having a strong relationship. And there's really 3 things that are going to allow you to do that. And it's this idea of serving as a consultant, the way in which you communicate, and then serving as a coach. But in order to do any of those 3, you've got to set the foundation. And today we're going to quickly talk about this idea of pre-framing every one of your conversations with your hiring manager. Now, some of this you may already be doing, but I want you to think about these 5 steps in a natural order when you're building or trying to build that relationship, because you want to be leading your hiring manager as the recruiting expert. You don't want the hiring manager leading you. So let's get right into this idea of pre-framing. Number 1 is this idea of discipline. And this is the idea that you're going to lead how the conversation is going to go. It may be a discussion of, I will call you at this particular time. We will meet in this particular room. We will meet in your office. Now, it seems kind of simple, but what is happening is that you're the one driving the conversation, not the hiring manager. You're the one setting the tone for the discussion, not the hiring manager, which is ultimately where you want to go. So number 1 is discipline. Number 2 is this idea of intention, being very clear. What is the conversation about? What is the intention? Are you talking about a candidate? Are you talking about compensation? Are you talking about industry information? Setting the tone or the reason for that discussion or meeting. Number 3 is an interesting one. Number 3 is this idea of conditions. Now, this scares some recruiters because now you're telling the hiring manager what you expect of them. So the conditions are, for this meeting, I as the recruiter will bring A, B, C, and D. But Mr. or Mrs. Manager, you need to bring E, F, and G, and you need to be prepared. Too many times we just walk into a meeting, have a little bit of conversation, and try to go right into it without having set the conditions of the discussion. Number 4 is this idea of the way. Now, this is more for you. This is, how are you going to get to where you're trying to go? What are the questions you're going to ask? Being prepared with those questions. And also being prepared with scenarios. So if the hiring manager is talking compensation and you know it's way out of whack, where are you going to take the conversation? Being ready for each of those one-offs where the hiring manager may take the conversation in a way you did not expect, but you're prepared for. And then the last one, which is the most important, is what is the outcome? What is the decision that needs to be made? There's no point in meeting with a hiring manager unless a decision is being made. A decision on the profile of the candidate, a decision on compensation, or a decision on a whole host of other things related to the recruiting process. But you as the recruiter are the one setting the frame. You're beginning to lead the process in a very simple way, but a very impactful and powerful way. Once you get this pre-frame down, now you're going to be able to start acting as the consultant, having a different level of dialogue and communication, and ultimately serving as the coach. And we'll be talking about those 3 things in episode number 11. We'll see you next week.